seen that from Joel Embiid? I haven't.
Well, he's had times in seasons where he's come back from injuries and kind of slowly ramped himself up, and then
but he's never looked like this.
No. This is the most sluggish and concerning I've seen him.
And out of touch. He seems out of touch, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, it's almost like I'm playing with a bunch of guys. How did I get here?
I don't even see. I disagree with that. Like, I get what you're saying, but to me, it's not a guy like trying to figure things out with a new team. Like, we've seen that version of Joel Embiid before, right? Like to me, to your points that you made a minute ago, it's something else, right? Like, he just seems certainly out of shape, but he's just, dude. He didn't get to the line on Monday night. He didn't get to the foul.
If he's not getting if he's not getting to the line, that starts to raise some red flags.
Big time. And he was, he was playing like me in my rec league. He was playing 3-point line to 3-point line. He was gassed. Right. He was gassed. Like, they would get the ball off a miss or even a make, and he had hands on knees, 2 feet behind the 3-point line on the wing. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
So let me get we played the Lou Williams stuff coming in. So Lou is basically a guy, we're connecting a little bit of dots here, but he played with some guys in that Sixers locker. I think he played with Lowry, Nick Nurse. He played for Nick Nurse. He played with, I think, Eric Gordon. I think they played together. So he's basically saying in this show that he does, I didn't even know he had a show, but who knew Michelle Beadle and Lou Williams and Chandler Parsons had a show together on FanDuel TV. That being said, so he's basically like, I stumbled upon this. I'm on the phone with one of my old teammates, essentially, and there's Embiid and Maxey. They're just laughing it up in the background after this is all over with. So whatever was said wasn't tension-filled enough that those guys are not talking or not on speaking terms. Does that make us feel better? Do we think this is blown up out of proportion? I don't know what to make of that, because it sounds like he's saying, well, this kind of got blown up out of proportion. That's not really how it went down, because everybody's praising Maxey. He challenged. Good for him. And Lou Williams is basically saying, that's not really how it went down.
No, I think if you go back to the report, right, you can read it, you can listen to it, whatever. It was reported on the Pat McAfee show, I believe, on ESPN originally. It was essentially saying Maxey called out Embiid, holding him accountable for being late, yada, yada, yada. He also went on to add to the report that, Maxey can do this because they have a good relationship. So I do think it was blown out of proportion, but not from the report, from how a lot of fans and people, media members, took it out there. But I think at the end of the day, it's spot on.
So Maxey, what's better though? What is better? Is it better if Maxey did challenge and call him out, or that this wasn't contentious and this was just an eye-opening, like, come on, dude. Because I just heard Pat Bev. I was listening. There's our buddy Pat Bev. He has whatever podcast, and he's saying, yeah, Joel's been late before, but he'll go out and score 70 that night. What are we going to say to the guy?
Right. Well, it's never gotten this ugly. It's never gotten this bad. So Pat Bev never experienced this in Philly. To answer your question, I would say this is a good thing. If I have to find a glimmer of hope and optimism in all of this, which is hard for me to do, I would say leadership. I like that Lowry said, we got to have a meeting, boys, right? This is getting bad. And I like that Maxey called him out, right? Like, someone's got to hold him accountable, because who is, Mike? Right? Like, how do you view it?
Well, that's been part of the problem, apparently, throughout Joel's tenure, is this, quite frankly, he's always been able to do what he wants to do. But isn't that what star players get? They get preferential treatment. Don't star players get to do essentially what they want to do? They don't get treated like, you don't treat, you say, look, Joel's not LeBron, but you get my gist. When you're the franchise player, is this news that the star players gets a little bit of leeway?
Yeah, well, let me ask you this, and I've brought this point up to you in the past. Is it the organization's fault, right? Because Joel has been handled a certain way since day one.
This organization's at fault for a ton,
well,
right?
I know that, but yeah, it's sort of an obvious question. But just to reiterate,
but okay. So this is. I was just talking about this before you came on. Ryan Rothstein's with Wednesday's 3:00 hour. We'll cut it up. So, like Doc Rivers or not, I know most people think he's an idiot and doesn't know what he's doing.
Don't go start defending Doc on me, man.
No,
Come on.
I'm just saying. The team brought Doc Rivers in. The guy had won an NBA championship, and he was very well respected. They bring him in. Okay, he doesn't get the job done. They move on from him. Now they've brought Nick Nurse in, another guy who's won an NBA championship. And now people are already starting to question Nick Nurse, that this guy doesn't know what he's doing. I talked about Joel. I was for Joel going to the Olympics. And one of my reasoning was this is a guy who has had a lot of success. He's won an MVP, but he just doesn't know how to win. Go to the Olympics where you're playing with the best players in the world. Sit around those guys for 3 weeks.
Well, hopefully not sit.
Well, he didn't play all that much, to be fair. But my point is, hang out with those guys for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Find out what makes them tick. Find out what they do and maybe incorporate it. I said, he's come back worse. So my whole reason, because people are upset that he went to the Olympics and like, oh, that was selfish. What was he doing? I looked at it as a positive of
Me too.
maybe he could find out what the secret sauce is that he's missing by, I don't know, talking to LeBron James for a couple of weeks, hanging out with Kevin Durant, hanging out with Steph Curry. I don't see the bad in that.
Me either. I'm on the same exact page. I looked at it in the summer as crossing my fingers as this could be the best thing for Joel Embiid. And man, this could be the best year for Joel Embiid because he went to the Olympics. Obviously, not the case. But to your point, it's like, okay, Nick Nurse, people calling out Nick Nurse is laughable, by the way. But Joel Embiid, since day one, has never been asked to work. He's never been a worker, which is why I think you and I both felt like going to the Olympics would be a positive. But he entered the NBA with an organization telling him, sit it out for 2 years, bud. I mean, how does that set the tone?
Yeah, well, Mike McGarry brought up an interesting point in the first hour. He says, is it the organization? In other words, everything that this team has done, any person, coach, player that has come through here has left for lesser. Like you don't view the guy when they leave here as, man, he really grew from his time in Philadelphia. I guess what's his name? The guy who played at Syracuse. Oh, man. He was on the process teams. He got himself a couple big contracts. Jeremy Grant.
Yeah,
Jeremy Grant came through here. TJ McConnell was another one. But mostly so is it the organization's fault? Is there something that this organization is, because I would ask this question. Josh Harris, the owner of the team, okay? He owns the Washington football team, the Commanders. Isn't the culture down there being praised, how things have changed almost immediately?
Fair point. I don't like it because it's a fair point. Yeah, but we'll see on that. Right. We'll see on that. We've seen this from Washington.
Well, interesting here. He went out and brought in Dan Quinn as the coach, but who was the guy he brought in to do it all? He brought in Bob Myers from the Golden State Warriors and said, you're in charge. And he went out and handpicked guys who were from winning organizations. I can't fault the organization for trying that here. They went out and got Doc Rivers, who won a championship. Now they go out and get Nick Nurse, who's won a championship. Now you can say Daryl Morey never won anything. Why did they pick him? Fair. You could say he hasn't won a championship.
Oh, Morey's been excellent.
I'm not blaming Morey, but I'm just saying.
I know, yeah.
So they have tried to get people that have come from winning organizations.
Yeah, I'll ask you this then. Is it, and this is like getting a little bit deep here, but is it a culture issue? Right? Because I'll bring up Aaron Rodgers. I'll bring up all NBA stars. Right? Like organizations give these stars, and rightfully so, they're their business. Right? Like their bottom line is directly impacted from one guy, two guys, right? Superstars. No one is telling Joel Embiid, no, despite the first 9 years of your career, this is how you've gone about things. we actually want you to practice hard twice a week. We actually want you to play in some back-to-backs. Not all of them, but some of them, right? Like, we don't want you to go about it the way you've always gone about it, because we've outlined the pattern here, Mike Gill, and the pattern has not changed despite turnover in the front office and on the sidelines with the coach, right? So, like, what is it? Is it culture with how the NBA enables their stars?
Well, I will say this. The NBA enabled the stars, but now you did see it last night. I don't think Wemby played. I don't know if they were on a back-to-back or not. For whatever reason, he did not play last night, even though it was an NBA Cup night. I feel like the load management is not as big as a problem as it was maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago, yet the Sixers didn't get the memo.
No, no, that didn't. That went somewhere else. That went
Right.
into like their spam folder in Camden.
Yeah, and, like, they're still holding fast to Embiid not going to play back-to-backs. Paul George not going to play. Look, you're 2-11, dude. Sometimes you got to rip up the plan and throw it out the window and say, we've got to get to the playoffs.